That footage ended up going to 50 Cent and his production company, and it's kind of the centerpiece.
Sold to them.
Yes, was the centerpiece of the documentary. So watch this particular scene, because this is where a lot of people feel Diddy really screwed over someone.
Imagine waking up and seeing Michael B. Jordan's name climbing the trending page again, not because of a new movie, not because of a red carpet moment, but because people are dragging an old breakup back into the spotlight like it never ended. And the wild part is, it's not even the breakup itself that has everyone stuck to their screens. It's the new wave of reports, the whispered claims, the random clips being stitched together, and the way the internet is acting like it finally found the missing puzzle piece that was never supposed to be seen. Because for years, fans told themselves that Michael and Lori Harvey were just one of those picture-perfect couples that simply didn't work out. A clean split. No cheating scandal, no messy interviews, no shady posts at 2 a.m. It was almost too neat. And now, people are saying that's exactly why they don't trust it. The story being pushed around online right now isn't they grew apart. It's darker, uglier, and way more Hollywood than anyone wants to admit. According to the chatter spreading across blogs, reaction channels, and those insider accounts that always claim they know somebody who knows somebody, the breakup didn't happen because of timing or commitment issues. The rumor is that something showed up, something private, something so disturbing that Michael allegedly went from being all in to disappearing overnight. And we're not saying that's true. We're saying that's what people are claiming. And the way this narrative is being repeated is what's sending fans into full meltdown mode. You've got people replaying old courtside footage, zooming into his face like they're detectives, swearing they can see the exact moment his energy changed. You've got others pulling up old photos of Lori with industry heavyweights and turning innocent snapshots into evidence. And then there's the biggest fuel on this fire. Talk of unseen footage, hidden recordings, and a supposed vault of secrets that certain names in the industry allegedly use to control the people around them. Again, these are allegations floating around online, but that hasn't stopped the internet from treating them like a movie trailer for a scandal nobody is ready for. And once that idea hit, everything that used to look normal suddenly looked suspicious. The unfollows weren't just unfollows anymore. The silence wasn't maturity anymore. Now people are calling it fear. And if that's even remotely close to why this breakup went so quiet so fast, then the reason trending today isn't about love at all. It's about leverage. The moment the internet decided to reopen this story, everything that once looked calm suddenly felt staged. People started saying that what made the breakup between Michael and Lori so unsettling was not what was said, but what was never explained. Fans remembered how quickly it all happened. One week they were everywhere together, smiling, glowing, being praised as the couple that made Hollywood feel hopeful again. The next week, it was as if they had never existed. Photos gone, captions erased, follows removed. No joint statement, no emotional post, just silence. At first, that silence was framed as maturity. Now, according to
News Live reports, Sean Diddy Combs is facing new assault allegations. The LA Sheriff's Department says that it's investigating a report from an alleged victim in Florida. That alleged victim has identified himself as music producer Jonathan Hay in social media posts that have since been removed. A spokesperson for Combs has not responded to
the wave of commentary spreading online. That same silence is being reframed as something else entirely. Online commentators began pointing out how unusual it was for a relationship that public to end with zero mess. People said even the most polished celebrity splits usually come with at least one crack, one leak, one friend speaking off the record. But here, nothing. Fans started asking why. And when people ask why on the internet, theories fill the space faster than facts ever could. Suddenly, old interviews were being rewatched with new suspicion. Moments that once seemed harmless were being slowed down, paused, and analyzed like crime footage. What really pushed the story into overdrive was the claim circulating that the breakup was not mutual at all. The narrative now trending is that Michael didn't slowly drift away. Instead, people online are claiming he was confronted with something that made staying impossible. Again, these are reports and rumors, not confirmed events. But the way they are being told is what has people locked in. According to these claims, something private allegedly surfaced behind the scenes, something that made the relationship feel unsafe rather than complicated. Fans began talking about how Michael's behavior shifted right after the breakup. They pulled clips from public appearances, pointing out how his smile didn't reach his eyes anymore. They shared screenshots from games where he sat courtside, staring straight ahead while everyone around him laughed. People said he didn't look heartbroken, he looked disturbed.
And that distinction became important to the story people were building. Heartbreak fades, shock lingers. Then came the reality.
From the outside circle, people noticed how Lori wiped her page clean almost instantly, not with anger, but with precision. No shade, no subtweets, just deletion. Steve Harvey's comments didn't calm anyone either. When he publicly said he was Team Lori 1000%, fans expected more explanation, not less. Instead, that comment became another puzzle piece people couldn't fit. Some took it as parental support, others took it as damage control. Emotions ran high in comment sections, with people arguing over whether a father protecting his daughter automatically meant he knew more than he was saying. As these discussions grew louder, the story expanded beyond just a breakup. It became about power and control in Hollywood. Bloggers and reaction hosts started connecting this situation to larger conversations already happening online, about secret recordings, hidden footage, and influential figures allegedly using private moments as leverage.
Let's talk about the filth that's starting to come out in the early days of the Diddy trial. This, of course, is P. Diddy. Surprise, surprise, he's a creep. Surprise, surprise, he's done horrible.
This was presented as proven truth, but it was presented as context, and context can be dangerous when it feeds imagination. Suddenly, Michael and Lori's relationship was no longer being discussed on its own. It was being pulled into a much darker narrative that suggested relationships could be ended not by choice, but by fear. People claimed that once someone sees something they were never meant to see, they don't argue, they don't negotiate, they disappear. And that idea resonated with viewers who had already been primed by months of industry scandals and lawsuits. Fans said this wasn't just gossip, it felt like a pattern. And when patterns feel familiar, people stop questioning them. Friends of both sides were noticeably quiet. No one rushed to defend either Michael or Lori publicly. That silence was interpreted in two completely opposite ways. Some fans said it showed respect and boundaries. Others said it showed legal caution. Emotions ran high as people debated whether non-disclosure agreements were the real reason nobody spoke. The family was left divided in public opinion, even though no family member had actually confirmed any of this. What made this narrative even more intense was the idea that the timing lined up too perfectly. Michael was at a career peak. Lori was securing major brand deals. Everything looked aligned for them to become a long-term power couple. Then suddenly it was over.
An added element to this, an added element of drama. Diddy is going to speak. He has some things he wants to say to the judge, to the court, and he has actually filed a request with the judge that he can wear street clothes instead of his prison jumpsuit because...
Fans said breakups usually come with buildup. This one came with erasure. And erasure in Hollywood often means someone wanted something gone fast. Commentators kept repeating the same phrase across videos and posts, saying that the breakup was clean on the surface but chaotic underneath. They painted scenes of private phone calls, tense conversations, and long silences where no one knew what to say. Some even imagined dialogues, claiming Michael confronted Lori late at night, his voice calm but shaken, asking questions that never got clear answers. They described Lori sitting quietly, knowing this wasn't a fight she could win with explanations. Again, none of this is confirmed, but the emotional storytelling made it feel real to viewers. Fans were shocked by how quickly sympathy lines shifted. At first, people blamed Michael for not committing. Now, many online were saying he might have walked away to protect himself. That reframing changed everything. Suddenly, he wasn't the distant boyfriend. He was the man who saw behind the curtain and chose silence over scandal. And Lori, once praised for moving on gracefully, was now being unfairly placed at the center of rumors she never addressed. As this version of events spread, the breakup stopped being about love entirely. It became about survival in an industry where secrets are currency. People said the reason it's trending again is because the internet feels like it's finally catching up to something that happened quietly on purpose. And whether these reports are true or not, the emotional weight they carry is why fans can't stop talking, because the scariest stories are not the ones confirmed out loud. They're the ones everyone agrees not to deny. The internet did not wake up.
The civil case is a much lower standard of a preponderance of the evidence, or in more layman's terms, more likely than not, the measurement we as attorneys typically use for that is 51%. And so for a civil case, you're just saying, hey, is there a 51% chance that Sean Combs allegedly committed these acts? If so, he would be liable. In the federal case, which was criminal, that was proof beyond a reasonable doubt, where he was found guilty of those two counts you mentioned earlier.
One day and randomly decide to drag Michael B. Jordan and Lori Harvey back into the spotlight. This moment was building quietly, piece by piece, until one spark hit and suddenly the entire timeline was on fire. Fans who thought this chapter was closed started realizing that the silence around their breakup might have been louder than any public fight. People began saying that the calmness felt rehearsed, like everyone involved knew exactly what not to say. What made this resurface was not a new interview or a confession, but a flood of online reports claiming there was more behind the scenes than anyone admitted. Blogs started repeating the same idea in different words, that the breakup was not about love fading, but about something appearing that should have stayed hidden. commentators were careful with their
language, using words like allegedly and reportedly, but the emotional tone told a different story. Emotions ran high as viewers leaned in, convinced they were finally hearing the real version after years of PR spin. Fans immediately went back to early 2022, replaying the timeline. Michael and Lori were everywhere together, glowing at events, holding hands, presenting themselves as effortless. Then suddenly, it was over. No warning, no buildup. Lori erased him from her social media like he never existed. Michael followed with the same precision. People said it looked less like heartbreak and more like emergency cleanup. At the time, most fans accepted the idea that they wanted different things. Now, that explanation feels too simple for what people are seeing. Online chatter began focusing on Michael's behavior right after the split. Clips from public appearances were stitched together, slowed down, and analyzed frame by frame. Fans pointed out how he stopped joking, stopped oversharing, stopped glowing. They said he didn't look like a man nursing a broken heart. He looked like someone processing shock. That distinction became central to the conversation. Heartbreak makes people talk. Shock makes people go silent. Then there was Lori's side. People noticed how controlled her response was. No emotional captions, no late-night posts, just quiet confidence and distance. Some fans praised her for being mature. Others said the lack of reaction felt strategic. Reaction channels started suggesting that both sides were following an unspoken rule to say nothing and move on fast. And when both people agree to silence in Hollywood, fans start assuming lawyers are involved. As the story spread, the narrative shifted from a private breakup to a larger discussion about power dynamics in the industry. Commentators began connecting the situation to other scandals already dominating headlines. Stories about hidden recordings, secret footage, and influential figures allegedly holding leverage over others were fresh in everyone's mind. Into that environment, these new reports landed perfectly. People were ready to believe that relationships could end not because of cheating, but because of fear. Fans were shocked as Steve Harvey's old comments were dragged back into the conversation. When he said he was Team Lori 1000%, people originally saw it as a father supporting his daughter. Now, some viewers are reading it differently. They're asking if that comment was support or protection. Did he know something was coming? Was he helping control the narrative before it spiraled? None of this is confirmed, but the questions alone were enough to divide opinion. Friends close to the couple stayed silent, and that silence only made things worse. Fans argued that if the breakup was truly mutual and harmless, someone would have spoken up by now. Instead, everyone appeared careful. That carefulness fueled theories about non-disclosure agreements and behind-the-scenes negotiations. People said this wasn't about gossip anymore. It felt like something that had been intentionally buried. The idea gaining traction online is that Michael allegedly saw or learned something that made continuing the relationship impossible. Again, this is not being stated as fact, but as a report circulating widely. According to these claims, it wasn't a fight, it wasn't an argument, it was a realization. And realizations don't come with closure conversations, they come with exits. Fans began imagining what that moment might have looked like. They described a late-night call, Michael listening in silence, his face going still as the weight of whatever he heard settled in. Some said he didn't yell, he didn't accuse, he simply pulled away. Lori, in these imagined retellings, is portrayed as calm but distant, understanding that some things cannot be explained away. These scenes are not confirmed events, but the emotional detail made them feel real to viewers watching from the outside. What pushed this even further was the claim that this breakup aligned too closely with other industry chaos to be coincidence. People said timing matters in Hollywood. When multiple stories overlap, they tend to share a source. Fans started connecting dots between unrelated headlines, forming a web where Michael and Lori were just one strand. The idea that someone powerful could end a relationship without ever appearing in public became the most chilling part of the discussion. Emotions ran high as fans debated who to sympathize with. Some defended Lori, saying she was being unfairly dragged into rumors she never addressed. Others shifted their support to Michael, saying his silence looked like self-preservation. The family was left divided in the court of public opinion, even though none of them had actually spoken. Every new post, every old clip, every archived photo was treated like evidence. By the time this wave of commentary settled, one thing was clear. The reason this breakup is trending again is not because people miss the couple. It's because the internet believes the story we were given years ago was incomplete. And once people believe there's a missing piece, they don't stop digging. They watch, they speculate, they wait. And in this case, they are convinced that the quietness was not peace, but pressure. Once that idea took hold, the conversation shifted from curiosity to obsession. People were no longer asking if the breakup was mutual. They were asking what kind of situation forces two high-profile celebrities to erase each other without a single crack showing. Fans started saying that this did not look like two people protecting their peace. It looked like two people following instructions they could not ignore. Online reaction channels leaned into the emotional side of the story, replaying moments from interviews where Michael talked about trust, privacy, and protecting what matters most. Fans said those words hit differently now. What once sounded like maturity suddenly felt like someone who had learned a harsh lesson. Commenters wrote that he sounded like a man who realized how fragile his world really was once powerful people get involved. At the same time, Lori's past started getting pulled into the spotlight in ways it never had before. Old photos resurfaced, not because they proved anything, but because people were hungry for context. Images of her at industry events, laughing, standing beside influential figures, were suddenly being framed as clues instead of memories. Fans debated whether that was fair or invasive, but the momentum did not slow. Once a narrative starts, the internet rarely asks permission. What intensified emotions was the way people described Lori's silence. She did not defend herself. She did not deny anything. She simply moved forward. Some fans admired that strength. Others said it felt like distance rather than healing. Reaction hosts speculated that if the rumors were completely false, someone in her circle would have shut them down immediately. Instead, the silence continued, and silence in celebrity culture is often read as strategy. Then came the claims about unseen material, whispered about in vague terms across multiple platforms. No one said exactly what it was, they just said it existed. That was enough. The idea that something private could be used as leverage tapped into fears people already had about fame. Fans talked about how terrifying it must be to realize your personal life could be turned into a weapon. They said this was no longer a love story, it was a cautionary tale. People began to imagine the pressure behind closed doors, not shouting matches, but quiet conversations where every word mattered. They pictured managers making calls, lawyers advising silence, and friends being told to stay out of it. The breakup in this version of events was not emotional chaos, it was controlled collapse, and that idea resonated deeply with viewers who felt Hollywood was built on appearances, not honesty. Emotions ran high when Steve Harvey's role was debated again. Fans argued fiercely in comment sections about whether he failed to protect his daughter or successfully shielded her from something worse. Some said he knew exactly what kind of industry Lori was navigating and chose silence as the safest option. Others accused him of hypocrisy, pointing out his public image as a family and relationship authority. The family was left divided in public opinion, even though Steve himself said nothing new. Michael's supporters started speaking louder online, reframing his silence as survival. They said he did not go quiet because he was embarrassed, he went quiet because he was smart. Fans claimed that when you are shown how power really works, you either play along or you disappear. According to this narrative, Michael chose to disappear from the relationship before it consumed him. The story took another dramatic turn when people started tying the breakup timeline to other industry scandals that were unfolding around the same period. They pointed out how multiple lawsuits, allegations, and exposés were coming out, all centered around the same circles. Again, none of this directly involved Michael or Lori, but the overlap was enough to keep speculation alive. Fans said patterns matter more than proof when you are trying to understand hidden systems. Reaction videos became more theatrical, with hosts reenacting imagined conversations. They portrayed Michael sitting in silence while someone spoke on the other end of the line, his expression slowly changing. They described Lori sensing the shift, knowing that whatever had surfaced could not be undone. These imagined scenes were dramatic, exaggerated, and unverified, but they gave viewers something to feel, and feelings are what keep people watching. Fans were shocked by how fast sympathy shifted from one side to the other depending on which version of the story they believed. Days, Lori was the victim of cruel rumors. Other days, Michael was the man who narrowly escaped something darker. The lack of confirmed facts allowed everyone to project their own fears onto the situation, and that made the story personal for people who had never met either of them. As the narrative grew, so did the idea that this breakup was intentionally framed as boring to keep it from being investigated. People said calling it mutual was the perfect cover. No drama means no digging. But the internet does not accept boring endings when the beginning was so public. Fans said the neatness of the split was what triggered suspicion in the first place. Friends and associates staying quiet only added fuel. No vague defenses, no anonymous quotes, nothing. Fans argue that this level of discipline usually comes from legal guidance, not emotional maturity. Emotions ran high as people debated whether silence was protecting reputations or hiding truths. The uncertainty itself became a story. By this point, the breakup was no longer being discussed as a past event. It was being treated like an unresolved mystery.
People said the reason it feels unfinished is because no one ever explained the sudden shift, and when something ends without explanation, the human mind fills in the blanks. The most chilling part of the conversation was the idea that love might not have been the deciding factor at all. Fans said maybe neither Michael nor Lori wanted to end it. Maybe the decision was made for them. That thought alone was enough to keep the story alive, because if that is even partially true, then this was never a romance gone wrong. It was a lesson in how quickly control can replace choice. And as these reports continued circulating, the tone of the discussion grew darker. People stopped asking who broke up with who. They started asking who had the power to make it happen. By the time the conversation reached that point, the tone online had completely shifted from gossip to something closer to unease. Fans were no longer laughing at theories or treating the story like entertainment. They were talking about fear, control, and how easily a public image can be rearranged overnight. What once felt like a celebrity breakup had turned into a discussion about what happens when private lives collide with powerful systems. People began focusing on the speed of the narrative cleanup. One day the couple existed everywhere. The next day, the internet was told it was over and to move on. Fans said that kind of reset does not happen naturally. It happens when everyone involved agrees that silence is safer than honesty. Reaction hosts described it as a coordinated retreat rather than a breakup, and that language stuck. Suddenly, every erased photo felt intentional instead of emotional. As the weeks passed in this retelling, fans claimed they noticed something else. Michael did not try to rewrite the story in his favor. He did not leak details to make himself look better. He did not position himself as the wounded party. Instead, he pulled inward. He focused on work. He avoided relationship talk entirely. Supporters argued that this kind of restraint does not come from guilt, it comes from caution. Emotions ran high as people debated whether his quietness was a shield. On the other side, Lori's public reemergence was seen through a harsher lens. Brand deals, travel, smiling photos, all of it looked normal on the surface, but critics online said it felt rehearsed. Not fake, but managed. They claimed she was moving carefully, choosing every appearance with intention. Some said it looked like someone reclaiming control. Others said it looked like someone making sure nothing slipped. Again, no proof, just perception. But perception is powerful when repeated enough. Fans also started dissecting how no one around them slipped up. No loose comments from friends, no accidental likes, no messy interviews. People said this level of discipline was rare, especially after a breakup that drew so much attention. The conclusion many came to was that everyone involved understood the stakes. When stakes are high, people do not talk, they protect.
No exit at all. These scenes were fictional, but they reflected fears many viewers already had about the industry. Emotions ran high when fans started asking why this story resurfaced now. The answer many landed on was timing. The internet climate had changed. People were already questioning old narratives, revisiting quiet scandals, and challenging the idea that silence equals innocence. In that environment, Michael and Lori's breakup felt unfinished. It felt like a story that had been paused, not ended. Some fans argued that reopening it was unfair. They said dragging two people back into rumors without evidence was cruel. Others countered that discussing reports was not the same as making accusations. They said the focus was not on proving anything, but on understanding how narratives are shaped. The family was left divided in the court of public opinion, not because of facts, but because of interpretations. Another twist in the conversation came when people started talking about fear of association. Fans claimed that once a name gets tied to a larger controversy, even indirectly, people around them go quiet to avoid being pulled in. They suggested that Michael's silence might not only be about what he saw, but about what he knew could happen if he spoke. That idea reframed him from a passive figure to someone actively choosing self-preservation. Supporters pointed out how he never weaponized sympathy. He did not hint at betrayal. He did not allow his team to float alternative explanations. He simply moved forward. In Hollywood, where image management often involves controlling the narrative, not controlling it at all felt intentional. Fans said sometimes the safest move is to say nothing and let time do the work. As this discussion deepened, the breakup became symbolic. People stopped talking about Michael and Lori as individuals and started using them as examples of how quickly relationships can be overridden by larger forces, examples of how silence can be both protection and prison, examples of how public stories are often edited versions of private realities. Fans were shocked by how many people related to that feeling. Comment sections filled with stories from viewers who said they had also walked away from situations without explaining, because explaining was too dangerous. That emotional connection is what gave the rumor life. It was no longer about celebrities, it was about control and choice. The narrative also raised uncomfortable questions about consent and power, not in the sense of confirming wrongdoing,
but in the sense of asking how much agency anyone truly has when reputations are on the line. People said the scariest part was not the idea of a secret, it was the idea that secrets could be used to direct lives without ever being spoken out loud. By this stage, the story had evolved far beyond its starting point. It was no longer about who unfollowed who, it was about why unfollowing was the loudest thing anyone did. Fans said that in a world where celebrities usually overshare, the absence of sharing felt intentional. The discussion circled back to one central idea again and again, that sometimes the cleanest stories are the messiest underneath, that sometimes a quiet ending is not peace, but pressure, and that if these reports are even partially true, then the breakup was not an emotional decision, it was a calculated escape. And as the internet continued to debate, analyze, and project, one thing became clear. This story refused to stay buried because it touched something deeper than celebrity drama. It touched the fear that silence might not be voluntary, and that idea, once planted, is hard to ignore. By the time the conversation reached its current stage, the breakup that fully transformed into a symbol rather than an event. People were no longer focused on timelines or social media behavior alone. They were focused on what the silence represented. Fans said the quiet felt deliberate, like a decision made under pressure rather than emotion. And once that belief settled in, every detail started to feel heavier. Online discussions turned toward the idea of reputation management. People talked about how Hollywood does not always need public scandals to correct behavior. Sometimes it only needs reminders of what can be lost. Careers, endorsements, access. Fans speculated that when those reminders appear, choices stop being emotional and start being practical. That framing changed how viewers interpreted Michael's withdrawal. Instead of seeing avoidance, they saw calculation. People also began questioning the role of timing in shaping public memory. The breakup happened quickly, during a moment when both Michael and Lori were highly visible. Fans said that if chaos had followed, it would have competed with major projects and brand deals. Instead, the quiet allowed everything else to continue uninterrupted. That neatness now looks less like coincidence to those who...
Revisiting the story, it looks like design. Emotions ran high as fans debated whether revisiting this was fair. Some argued that repeating unverified reports only harms people who never asked to be part of speculation. Others responded that the conversation was not about proving wrongdoing, but about examining how narratives are controlled. The family was left divided in opinion, with one side urging compassion and the other insisting that silence should not be immune from scrutiny. Another layer was added when fans discussed how public perception can be shaped by what is never denied. In celebrity culture, false rumors are often shut down immediately. Here, nothing was addressed. No statement, no clarification, no gentle correction. People said that absence created a vacuum that rumors rushed to fill. Whether intentionally or not, the lack of response allowed the story to evolve on its own. Reaction channels emphasized that none of this meant the rumors were true. They stressed that these were reports, theories, and interpretations circulating online. But even with those disclaimers, the emotional impact remained. Viewers said that the story felt believable, not because of evidence, but because of how familiar it sounded. The idea of powerful systems influencing personal decisions did not feel far-fetched to an audience already skeptical of fame. Fans also started asking uncomfortable questions about consent in relationships shaped by influence, not in terms of specific acts, but in terms of choice. How much freedom does anyone really have when the cost of honesty could be total erasure? That question resonated deeply, especially with viewers who had experienced pressure in their own lives. It made the story feel less like gossip and more like reflection. Support for Michael continued to grow in certain spaces, framed around the idea that walking away quietly can be an act of strength. Supporters argued that not every battle needs to be fought publicly. Sometimes survival means choosing peace over truth. Others pushed back, saying that silence can also protect harmful systems. The debate had no resolution, only tension. Lori's position in the narrative remained the most complicated. Some fans insisted she was being unfairly placed at the center of speculation without ever being given a voice. Others argued that public figures benefit from silence as much as they suffer from it. Her continued success became both proof of resilience and fuel for suspicion, depending on who was watching. The conversation also highlighted how quickly fans can turn detective when given incomplete stories. People admitted they were projecting their own fears onto the situation, fears of being controlled, fears of being silenced, fears of having to walk away without explanation. The breakup became a canvas for those anxieties, and Michael and Lori became characters in a story larger than themselves. As time passed, the idea that this narrative could resurface again and again felt inevitable. Stories like this do not end when the people involved move on. They end when the audience feels satisfied. And satisfaction does not come from neat conclusions, it comes from understanding. Without that, speculation fills the gap indefinitely. Reaction hosts began saying that even if nothing new ever comes out, the story has already done its work.
It has changed how fans view quiet endings. It has changed how silence is interpreted. It has reminded people that what looks peaceful on the surface can hide intense pressure underneath. That shift in perspective is lasting. Emotions ran high as commenters reflected on how easily public images can be edited. They said the breakup showed how quickly a narrative can be finalized before anyone asks questions. Once the label mutual is applied, curiosity is discouraged. But curiosity does not disappear. It waits. And years later, it returns stronger, armed with context that didn't exist before. Some viewers said reopening the story was a sign of growth, that audiences are no longer satisfied with surface-level explanations. Others said it was a sign of distrust, a refusal to believe anything without suspicion. Both interpretations can exist at the same time, and that tension is what keeps the discussion alive. As the narrative settled into its current form, one theme remained consistent: control. Not confirmed, not proven, but discussed, dissected, feared. The idea that control can shape personal lives without ever being named is what makes the story unsettling. It suggests that sometimes the loudest force in a situation is the one you never see. In the end, the reason this breakup is trending again has less to do with Michael or Lori themselves, and more to do with what people think the silence represents. Fans are not chasing confirmation, they are chasing understanding. They want to know how often quiet endings hide uncomfortable truths. And until someone speaks or something changes, this story
will continue to live in that uncomfortable space between rumor and reflection, not because people want drama, but because people want clarity. And when clarity is denied, speculation becomes the only language left. So now the question comes back to you. After hearing all of this, after watching how a quiet breakup turned into one of the most debated stories online years later, what do you actually believe? Do you think this was just two people protecting their peace? Or do you think the silence says more than words ever could? Fans are still split, emotions are still running high, and the internet clearly is not done with this story yet. This is not about proving anything happened. This is about the fact that these reports exist, that people are talking, and that so many viewers feel like something never quite added up. Sometimes the most powerful stories are not the loud ones, but the ones that disappear too fast. And whether you see this as harmless speculation or a reflection of deeper industry issues depends on how you read the silence. Now it is your turn to weigh in. Do you think Michael walking away quietly was strength or fear? Do you think Lori staying silent was grace or strategy? Or do you believe the internet has gone too far trying to turn a private breakup into something darker? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this conversation clearly is not over, and your perspective matters just as much as anyone else's. If you want more deep dives like this, where we break down trending stories, online reports, and the narratives fans are building behind the scenes, make sure you like this video so more people can find it. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next breakdown, because if history tells us anything, stories like this always come back around. And most importantly, keep the discussion respectful. These are real people, real reputations, and real consequences, even when we are talking about rumors and commentary. Say what you think, listen to others, and let's keep questioning the stories we are handed instead of accepting them at face value. Because in a world where silence is often the loudest move, the real question is not what was said, it's why nothing